We don't know.
Oh, come on.
But these bats have bombs on them.
What? That's awesome.
Oh, my God.
They're bat bombs.
Bat bombs? What do you mean bat bombs?
What is a bat bomb other than something that sounds adorable and like a drink? You know, I'll take 2 bat bombs and a chaser.
Bat bomb sounds good.
Yeah.
Let's do some bat bombs after the show.
You guys want to know what bat bombs are?
Yes.
Yes. 1,000 times yes.
After the bombing of Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941, Americans were outraged and looking for ways to get revenge against Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you're a big fan of the 1964 classic animation adventure comedy Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, you'd probably never think that a dentist could have such moxie and try to save the day. Did you ever think a dentist would have moxie?
Never.
No.
Why?
Well, let me introduce you to Dr. Lytle S. Adams, dentist and World War II weapon creator. Yeah. Let
What a
that sink
dual
in.
identity that guy's
Yeah.
got.
What was his name again?
Dr. Lytle S. Adams. But, you know, not all doctors are like this, but I feel like some doctors just have such egos, they just feel like they can just do anything.
I can see that.
They're like, I went to school for this, and I feel like I'm also an expert in everything in the world.
That makes sense.
Not
that
all
the
like that, but...
Kruger-Dunning?
Yeah, that's the Dunning-Kruger effect.
So, during a vacation of spelunking in the Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico, Dr. Adams, the dentist, became tremendously impressed by the Mexican free-tailed bat. And it was on this vacation that he had turned on the radio to hear about the attack on Pearl Harbor. And it was then that this batty idea came to be.
Oh, I see what you did
Nice
there.
puns.
Yeah, literally bats. Dr. Adams did some research on these bats and went out on his own and actually captured a bunch. And in capturing these bats and studying them, he realized that they were perfect beings for explosive espionage.
Yeah, now I'm like, okay, go on.
Go on,
Go
Lionel
on.
Adams.
So you're saying these
DDS?
bats have
DDS.
bombs?
Yeah.
Batman.
Bats with bombs.
So think about how bats get inside of buildings and houses, right? People sometimes have to professionally get them removed,
They're
right?
Sneaky.
They can get in your attics,
Sneaky
garages. They can also withstand high altitudes and fly long distances. And I didn't know this, but they can apparently carry heavy loads while flying.
That makes sense.
So Dr. Adams was like, I see your kamikaze airline pilots, and I raise you bat bombs.
They're more affordable, I would imagine.
Yeah. And not bath bombs, which are delightful and their life, but bat bombs and their death. To bats mostly. And I'll be honest, this story disturbs me.
Oh.
More than many I've told, and yes, because it involves the death of sweet, sweet bats who eat bugs and mind their own business.
Right.
Just flying puppies.
And
right?
this evil dentist, basically the inspiration for the dentist in Little Shop of Horrors, decided that these pure creatures were perfect to unknowingly sacrifice themselves for our country. Mexican free-tailed bats, not even American, and obviously not even free.
I'm making bat bombs, and Mexico is going to pay for
They're
them.
going to fund them all.
That was nicely done. Nicely said.
So, like most Americans in the 30s and 40s, Dr. Adams, he just had this really weird, skewed vision of Japan, just basically having, like, paper houses and factories. That's just how he just pictured it.
Well, they did have paper-walled houses. That was actually...
Yeah,
there was
this is
actually...
true.
Yeah, that actually was a thing.
I'm
But
sure there was
factories, no.
Concrete.
Yeah,
But he also
yeah.
kind of thought of it as a shithole.
Yeah,
I think,
he basically was
for-
just like, oh, there's just nothing there. We can totally just have bats go in there. And he thought that with enough bat bombs that they could wipe out entire cities by letting bats do what they do best, just hide in dark places. And he
genius.
actually outlined his plan and sent it to the White House. And man, Daddy, I think this was the original screenplay for the movie Silence.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, what a great cinematic achievement that movie was.
So this plan promised to, quote, frighten, demoralize, and excite the prejudices of the Japanese Empire. That the millions of bats that have for ages inhabited our belfries, tunnels, and caverns were placed there by God to await this hour.
Nice.
And he said that the plan might easily be used against us if the secret is not carefully guarded. He was very paranoid that people would find out about his bat bombs and be like, damn, what a great idea. And then it'd just be
Use
like,
it against me.
bats would just take over the world, murder us all.
Bold underline. Again, no bats.
No bats. Don't tell them. We're not using bats. Definitely not bats.
something else. I don't know.
Something else? I don't know. Maybe swallows. So that proposal that he wrote up actually made it into President Roosevelt's hands.
You have to be kidding me.
No, and here's why. Apparently, this guy had some personal friendship with the First Lady, Eleanor.
Oh.
He knew her somehow.
Intrigue.
President Roosevelt actually passed it along to wartime intelligence, and he actually wrote a note. He wrote, "This man is not a nut."
Roosevelt.
When you have to say that, the guy is totally a nut. No one. If someone has to explain, okay, this guy is not a nut.
Hear me out.
Hear me
Bat
out.
bombs. But I know what you're thinking.
He's not a nut. He's a dentist. He's got
This man is not a nut. He's a dentist, for God's sake. Show some respect.
That's fantastic.
And he continued, "It sounds like a perfectly wild idea, but it is worth looking into."
He said wild idea in
Yeah.
an official note.
He's
Yeah.
hip as hell, man.
Just a little note on the side.
This
just
crap's
a little,
wacky, I know, but give it a try.
Oh,
He did
my
a little
God.
asterisk. It's seriously, this guy's not a nut. This is real.
It's like, seriously, have him checked.
Roosevelt.
It's all winky face.
So, the proposal is actually taken up by the National Research Defense Committee.
Good for them.
And this guy, Donald Griffin, who had actually conducted groundbreaking work on bats' echolocation, and they were all like, "Yeah, sure, let's try this out." So, Donald Griffin, he said, "This proposal seems bizarre and visionary at first glance, but extensive experience with experimental biology convinces the writer that if executed competently, it would have every chance of success." So, people actually experimented and actually started doing research on this. And Adams actually took some dummy bombs to Washington for demonstration.
Dummy bombs.
Yeah.
That's so insulting to the bomb.
And they actually did a couple of these demonstrations, and they were all and they were actually impressed by this. So the U.S. Air Force gave authority for investigations to begin on how to officially do bat bombs to get back at Japan. So it was March of 1943, and the subject of the letter was "Test of Method to Scatter Incendiaries." So they were basically...
That's a nightmare title.
Yeah.
They're basically trying to figure out how to use bats to carry small incendiary bombs into enemy targets. So basically
How
just
to
to
burn
cause
people.
basically just cause little fires. And they called this Project X-Ray.
That's a good, man, they always have the best best project names.
Yeah.
Like Operation Upshot Knot Hole.
So the Army captured thousands of bats from the Southwest, mostly these Mexican free-tailed bats. And they designed tiny little bombs for these bats.
They're just cute little.
But obviously, things were a little more complex than they would think it would be.
The bats were a
First of
little
all,
smarter.
yeah. Well, first of all, they didn't really know how to transport all these bats. So this is the thing that bothers me.
I know exactly. I know the
well-
story. It's messed up.
They would put them in hibernating mode while they were shipped. So they would stick them in ice cube trays and cool them. So they basically froze these bats. And then they had to figure out how to actually release them in the air. So they made this cardboard container that was supposed to automatically open and release them. But
From a frozen state.
yeah, from a frozen state.
They're,
my
they're
God.
basically on ice
Wake
cube
up.
trays, and there's all of a sudden they're
Yeah.
flying through the air. What? Hold on.
Right.
Good morning.
Well,
Jeez.
as assumed, this didn't really go as planned. There was a lot of things that needed to be fine-tuned because at some point, some loaded incendiary bats were accidentally released and pretty much just caused a huge fire in the Carlsbad Army Airfield Auxiliary
Oh
Air
my
Base.
God. Really?
Just flew right into a barn and
they
lit
just,
it up.
Yeah, pretty much. They just
Oh my God.
a whole hangar and some general's car was just burned.
Did anyone die?
No one died.
Okay,
But,
now I feel better laughing. What dumbass.
Yeah.
He's just drunken bats with bombs.
What could
Oh,
go
what
wrong?
the-
'Cause when you
Yeah.
look at a huge, massive bats, you think precision.
Yeah. How do you control where bats go?
They can't
middle
control
of
it
the
out.
day.
Yeah.
They're like, why is this so bright? I don't know what's going to... Bam.
And also, you don't think those bats just dropped those bombs off. Obviously, they were a part of that. So,
Suicide bombers.
Yeah.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. I mean, as far as I can tell, I don't really think the bats were just and this is an
And
incendiary
now-
bomb, and I'm just going to put it here, and I'm just going to fly my little bat life
Take that,
away.
Tojo.
Bye. No, that's not happening. So that was around March of 1943. In December of 1943, the Marine Corps took over the program. They started doing more tests.
Lasted a lot longer than I thought it was.
And after 30 demonstrations, and this is 1943, and $2 million spent, it finally was canceled. The project was canceled.
And this is what year?
1943.
1943. $2 million in 1943.
$2 million in 1943.
And this was Project X-Ray.
Project X-Ray.
And it was
cool.
30 demonstrations.
30
which means
demonstrations.
29 of them were kind of like, I don't really know about this, which I can't even imagine what that would look like with bat bombs.
Amazing.
I feel like that's way more demonstrations
Then
that
you
really
need to
needed.
demonstrate.
Like,
Right.
what were they trying to keep doing? What was the controlled thing they were trying to figure out?
Set
Like,
that building on fire.
I think
they
it's
just
probably
they
just
just
so
held up a bat. And they're like, "You go over there. You tell your friends."
Go, do.
I just think it's probably so badass looking they had to keep doing it. They're like, okay, did this bunch of bats just blow up? Did it do anything? No, but it was so cool. We got to do this again.
Something with bats and bombs. Like, we just got to figure it out.
It's got to be figured out because this guy's definitely not a nut. He's not a nut.
The president said so.
Figured it
vouched
out.
for him.
Roosevelt signed off on this. We got to do this. The other reason why this was canceled was because they figured something else out that was a lot better. The atomic bomb.
A little more effective, a little more,
Yeah.
to the point.
So, the White House is apparently very gung-ho about this project, but it just didn't follow through.
It just didn't
figure it
fly.
out. Just didn't fly. Oh, why still my puns tonight?
Yeah, you don't, like...
Is that the second
you're
time?
very
Yeah.
funny. Yeah, you had a pun earlier.
Wait, is that bad?
Of course, Dr. Adams was very disappointed his bat project didn't work. He did come up with a few other crazy schemes, some of which include seed packet bombs. And I wish I had looked into this one because I don't really know what the hell this means. A fried chicken vending machine.
Bomb?
Oh, nice.
Hold on. Oh, wait. Go back. Say that again.
A fried chicken vending machine.
I want us all to think about it for a moment.
Yeah.
And just imagine the glory that could be.
Smells.
Oh, God.
Those would also probably catch on fire.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I
And you
think
could
this guy
probably-
just wanted to watch the world burn.
Yes.
This guy's a freaking joker.
Yeah.
What a punk.
So, though Adams was let down by all this, the one thing we can know is that the bats are probably pretty happy about it. So,
The bats rejoiced.
yeah.
Well, we have bats. That's good.
Yeah.